As somebody that's adopting the Xperia, there's a lot of things that I want to say about this particular phone. I hate what's happened in the smartphone market and everything, and I hate what's been going on for a long time. I mean, like, first of all, like, I did a cursory examination of microSD this morning, and it was eye-opening to say the least for me because, like, personally, it made me realize, like, obvious insight wise, about these things. Now, if you had pulled me and asked me a question about some of the markings on here, so basically, this is a card I ordered earlier, and if you had asked me to tell you what the transfer speeds of UHS-1 ultimately were, I would just blank face you. I wouldn't know. And I've learned that after a while that there's the technology has moved, and I did just learn relatively recently because of some of the white papers that I was looking at that is one of the speed denotations that will tell you how fast the card happens to be, that particular figure, you know on the thing. And I'm starting to realize, like, more and more of what the markings on the damn SD card actually mean and everything. And I did this, and I became I started to become aware of this, and I'm pretty sure, like, UHS-1 is not one of the fast ones. It's one of the slower ends of things. But I've been this my mouthpiece as an SD card evangelist. I've been basically pointing out, despite my affections for this particular technology and everything, that well, like, first of all, like I was trying to say, that they're trying to modernize it. The efforts to modernize it are not in the past, as something that happened. They're still ongoing. The intent is to keep bringing this technology forward as time marches forward, with to bring this technology with us forward. And so the latest SD cards have the same speeds as an NVMe drive. And the latest Samsung cards that I've been exposing this. I've been doing it on purpose by shoving these articles in your face about the whole thing. And articles that are just recently from, like, 2004, about the whole thing, where Samsung is enabling rapid fire transfers of large file, like 8K videos, and the mobile AI capabilities with its micro SD cards. Like, the SD 9.1 standard promises to redefine the landscape of digital storage by doubling the performance of existing top tier micro SD cards. This advancement would allow future SD cards to reach unprecedented speeds of 2 gigabytes a second, marking a significant milestone in storage technology. Unveiled by the SD Association last year, the next generation of SD Express cards, which adhere to the SD 9.1 standard, would feature PCIe Gen 4 technology. This significant upgrade was expected to elevate data speeds to an impressive, 196, 1,969 megabytes per second. Such speeds represent a more than twofold increase over the capabilities established by the initial micro SD protocol in the SD 7.1 specification, setting a new benchmark for portable storage solutions. For context, most advanced portable SSDs on the market today typically feature speeds around 1 gigabyte per second. So this is faster by almost 2x. The new micro SD from Samsung is fast stuff. And so you know, what I'm trying to reveal in all of this is that if you think that this is an antiquated technology that's a relic of a bygone era, you really don't know anything about the technology. Your opinion is based on an extraordinary amount of ignorance. In fact, to be honest with you, I just recently became aware of how much ignorance I have. If you polled me on what the transfer speeds on, from these cards were, when I bought them, I would have been blank faced. I wouldn't have fucking been able to tell you and anything. And there's a more, detailed information on these cards than I was initially aware of. and everything, but I had to go into and become aware of the fact that this ignorance existed in me, and that this is something that I can solve and do something about, but I just haven't dealt with yet. And the thing that that gets me about all this is that if you think that this is a relic of a bygone era, that's just not you're not paying enough attention to the technology. You aren't hip enough to it. You don't know what's really going on. You don't like there really are ongoing efforts to modernize, micro SD and to bring it forward into the modern world. This is a technology that hasn't sat still since 2024, and I don't mean 24, but since it was announced like way back in the past, I don't know when the technology first emerged. I know that I've come to become familiar with them within the past like decade or so. But I will ultimately specify that what got me when I was talking and elucidating things to my mother about this technology is that you remember those old floppy disks. Well, I mean, if you're a kid these days, you wouldn't remember what they were, but if you're like me, if you were around in the 90s, you remember those 3.5 inch floppy disk and everything. Those crappy disks. You might see a news report about a company that still uses them, like the airline industry is definitely still rely on them. But those diskettes, like if we used more modern techniques, we could probably store like 100 megabytes on those floppy disk, with more modern technology. And if you had an unlimited budget and, money to burn on the whole thing as far as an experimentation, you could probably cram far more data into those disks and, upgrade the file specifications such that it was able to get, a much better read write speeds and everything else out of those diskettes. We don't think in that direction often. We don't bend our minds in such a way, but the truth of the matter is that these cards are not limited by, you know, what you would think. They're limited by the technology of the era they came from. And, if technology gets better, the ports that these things plug into get able to read at faster speeds and the ports themselves get upgraded, well, then guess what? You're going to get, micro SD brought forward in such a way that the technology is able to support, larger file sizes and, a great, you know, read write speeds and everything else. So, you who are sitting there in the armchair basically saying that this technology is antiquated, you don't know what you're talking about. You call it a relic of a bygone era if you want, but I can't stop you. But what you're doing is exposing your ignorance to everybody listening. You know,